Okay, I know. I think I know exactly what you're thinking. You're like, did this son of a gun actually go ahead and finish this lantern and light it up without us and not even show us? Yes, I did. You know, sometimes doing videos and stuff like this kind of can take some of the fun out of just repairing something without doing any particular sort of effort around videoing and everything else. You just want to sit down and work on it and not set up cameras and not edit and all that. And that's that's what I did. That is what I did. So I'm gonna make sure I got my audio plugged in here, which I think I do. I'm gonna move my phone because sometimes that'll make buzzy noises, so we'll move that out of the way. So yeah, so that's what I did. But you know what? I got stories to tell because it was interesting how I got the thing to work. And the things that are currently still a little bit amiss with this is that the foot valve on the main fuel is the O-ring is hard and it's not sealing properly, so that needs to be replaced. But I'm still able to light it up before any kind of fuel gets too high up in here, and so that's okay. So that needs to be replaced. I found a new torch assembly to replace the one that was in here because it was plugged. That new torch assembly is right here. And I did, you'll notice it's in the bag and not in the lantern, so I did actually manage to fix it. And what the problem was is that this little torch here was immersed in this fuel, which I filtered it. It's that's as clear as it's going to get, and it hasn't settled. So that was what was actually inside of the fountain. So it had kind of gummed up and varnished up this. I hope the water noises aren't too loud. I've got I went out and I bought an evaporative cooler to kind of provide a little bit of cooling. I know that it's humid here and it may not work totally great, but it feels pretty cool, so I like it a lot. Anyway, back to this. So what I wasn't able to get anything to go through there, so I tried. I had like a pin. I tried a pin. The pin's too big. I tried needles from generators. They're not long enough, and so I ended up using some stainless steel braid from a water line that failed. That's a whole nother story you don't want to hear about, but my flooded bathroom. But nonetheless, that is what it is. And the nice thing about this one actually has a filter that unscrews and you can attack it from the other side, but the one that's in here, it does not unscrew. So what I ended up doing is getting a little piece of vinyl tubing like this, which fits just over this little filter. And then what I did is that I put about that much denatured alcohol in here. And we all know that denatured alcohol does a really, really good job of dissolving any sort of varnish, especially from kerosene. And then I took my air chuck, which you have to imagine hooked up to an air hose. That's full of, it's half full of denatured alcohol. Air chuck, 120 psi, hit it and blew it right through there. And did that several times, and I heard a good snap of it come out of there. So after I did that, man, this thing is now flowing fuel no problem. So if you run into this in the future, that is a dead simple way for you to be able to put a significant amount of pressure behind that and blow whatever's in there out. And yeah, you can, if you make your hose longer, you can even force even more of the denatured alcohol through it. But I thought that was a pretty cool fix. Anyway, so it's not necessarily needed now, although it still is sucking up a little bit of scuzz. And I found that if it does go out, I just kind of snap that a couple of times, and then it'll knock itself loose and it'll refire and off it goes. So what I'm going to do here is I'll put up some pictures, because I took pictures of the initial start. So you can see here, this is the first time that the torch lit. And then after about a minute of the torch lighting, then here is the absolute first light of the lantern. And then, you know, another kind of beauty shot here on the back patio for of it running. So I let it run about an hour or so to really set that mantle in there. So now the problem that we've got still is that I don't know if you can actually see this. You might be able to, but the shaft for this valve here is bent, and as a result, screwing down on the packing here is not preventing it from leaking. There's you'll see a little wisp of kerosene vapor that comes out of there. So what we need to do is that we need to pull the packing out and replace that. And this thing's got, I was using it last night while barbecuing, and it had done a fine job of annihilating bugs, and they're still all over the place. So I did manage to find graphite packing for it, so that is here. So we're going to go ahead and hope that all that fits just like it's supposed to. But to do that, we need to kind of tear it back down, and actually these are really simple to tear back down. And you'll see now that the top of this has a little bit of color since it's been running a bit. But so that is yeah, it's a little colored. But I think what happened with this, the reason this looks so good and the fount doesn't look as good as the ventilator, is that I think this is a replacement vent, because I did the exact same cleaning trick with this with the oven cleaner, and I didn't get this brilliant shine out of it. So this looks way too new compared to this once they're cleaned up. So this has a little bit more pitting on it, and so as a result, it's probably a replacement. Man, bugs everywhere. I'm gonna check with my gauge to see if my tube moved any, which it seems to have a little bit. It still is pretty close. These things move, and these gauges are really important, because they tell you they have different widths for the 250 and for the 500. And well, actually they say 350 and 500 uses the larger one, and then the 250 uses the smaller one. So so yeah, so what we're going to do is the favorite part of this, which is carefully remove this without trashing the mantle, because it goes right in the middle of that Preston loop. So this is a Peerless, what is it, the HGH, whatever the heck it is, not the 24A, but the other version, I don't remember. Anyway, it's essentially the Coleman 21A equivalent, and you can see that because of the pressure that's in here, it blew it into a nice round ball, and so it gets a great light and works really good. The replacement globe worked great, stuck up with bugs on it, but we're going to use that as a way to kind of keep us from wrecking our mantle. And then we're going to continue with the teardown here, because it's just really one screw and then everything is out of the way. I probably, well, it's actually going to be more than that, because I'm going to have to take the top part of the vaporizer off, which is fine, because this little plate always gets hung up on the on this nut here. So go ahead and set this down. I did hand polish the oh shoot, now I'm turning the whole valve. Don't want to do that. I did hand polish the frame, because this is just bigger, a little more leverage here. I did hand polish the frame because I didn't want to mess up the Aida label, which is made out of aluminum, so you can't use the oven cleaner on that. So let me get this on here so this will come off. Oh, it's really, the heat on there really stuck it up. Anyway, so this is now loose. That'll come right out. That's great. And then now this will come off nice and easy. Just use pair of pliers to kind of hook it out of here, sort of pair of pliers, needle nose pliers. Get this out, and then we're home free. Yeah, I also stuck this in the oven cleaner. It was rusty, but the side that was relatively clean looks good, so that's that. This comes right off. Yeah, this is the Aida Express label that I didn't want to mess up. Your oven cleaner, that caustic would attack that aluminum in that tag and really mess it up. So I did the standard kind of hand polish on it, and it kind of matches the patina that we've got on the fount, so I'm not too upset about it. So now that we've got this here, we've got everything out in the open, so we can unscrew our knob. And the knob here is not an Aida knob, it is a Petromax knob, and but they're all these parts are interchangeable, so I just went ahead and used it because I don't have an Aida knob. So at this point, things going to get interesting because I have not pulled apart one of these before, so not completely sure what to expect. Trying to find a wrench that works, and I don't have one, so we resort to this. And so we'll take this off, and so we're gonna have to do two things here. We're gonna have to get the packing out of it, and also we're gonna have to straighten this valve stem. I think that is probably it. But it is, yeah, this is not wanting to come off because it's bent. So that's not too cool. Let's see if I can convince it a little bit more. There it goes. Okay, so that's good. And that's the packing that's inside there. Well, sorry, that was like the half a second view. So you can see the packing that's inside there, which looks very similar in diameter to the ones that I've got here. So yeah, this is looking kind of mangled. I think I'm gonna have to take this other part off here to get it to come out. So well, that doesn't want to move at all. And I want to be real careful with these things. I don't know if I'm lucky enough to have something that fits in this department. I don't think I am. It's just all these sizes are, like I said, during this time there wasn't as much standardization, so you run into things that are they're just not quite the same as our standard sizes. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of, well, first of all, just kind of wipe all of this off. Maybe I'll end up trying to straighten it here, but I really would like to remove it from the valve body and then push it out the other way, because I'm pretty sure that's the way it goes in, because this has to engage with the carburetor knob, because I believe there's a disc on the back side of this. Don't want to use a whole lot of heat on this either, because there is a lead gasket down here, and we don't want to hurt that. Ding. Okay, so let's see. Can we get a better grip with this? Not really. And I don't want to like tweak the fount either. Using this is a little bit better because it's going to limit how much torque I can apply to it. Push against here to kind of, there it goes. Perfect. Okay, this is good. So this will come out. Yeah, so there's that little disc on the bottom that engages with the rod. And as it is right now, we can't even push this through because of the bend that it's got. So we're going to do some careful hammering here. See if we can get that to look a little better. It's pretty, the brass is pretty hard, honestly. It doesn't want to move that much. And what I don't want to do, which I'm kind of doing already, is create some flat spots on the surface of it, which are going to be difficult to seal. So I'm going to try hitting it with some protectant on top so it doesn't flat spot. Yeah, it's still not really moving. You know, this would be one of those kind of things that if I got a replacement part, what I would do is I would just saw this off right here, and then it would push through. And but I don't have one, and I don't think it's difficult to get one. That may be ultimately what I end up doing, because it just doesn't want to flatten out very much. I'm trying to see if I can see where the maximum bend is, which is right there. I don't know if I can get it in the vise. Where did my little paper go? Oh, here. See if we can get it in the vise here, and then we'll try to just bend it. Okay, so there's that. Now to, how do I want to do that so I don't destroy it any more than I need to? It would be really great if I could get something like this on there, but I can't. Maybe we'll just try the looser one and see what happens. So I'm trying not to kill the threads, which that really wants to do. So I need like a piece of pipe that goes over the end that I can kind of tweak down on it a little bit, which I don't seem to really have, although this might. Will this fit in here? Alright, that'll fit in there. Or I do this. Yeah, that stuff is tough. Hey, there's progress being made. It goes further, so that's good. It goes about, I don't know, about a quarter inch further than it was before, so that's pretty good. And we're going to try to spin this to see how much of a lope we still have in it. You can almost pull it right through now. I don't want to force it. Of course, now I gotta do this. There we go. Trying to see where, if it leaves a mark, then I kind of know where I need to bend it next. Well, that's really surprisingly close, but what I'm going to do, this is going to accentuate the bend for sure. So just going to kind of screw this down, because you'll be able to see that bend it a whole lot better when you have a large indicator on it, which like this knob will be. So let's see. Man, that really looks pretty darn straight. I think this may be good enough for government work here. Let's kind of unscrew this thing. And you know, the packing didn't disintegrate on this thing when I took it out. So I think, and it had a fair bit of adjustment range still left on it, so maybe we're going to get lucky and we won't have to do the packing on it. So let me try shoving this back in here and see if we get it engaged properly. That, yep, that's engaged. So we'll continue on with this. Everything works up and down. That looks good. Put some good snuggage on there. Let's see how this looks now when we turn the knob. Well, still kind of hard to see, but let's spin this nut back on here.
Okay, please spin the wheel.
Alexa, stop. I don't know why she just decides to do things like that, but she does. Well, that is really got very little run out in it. I'm gonna call that pretty good, and I think that's probably good enough for the packing to work. What I really wanted to do was to take this rod completely out and then polish up the shaft with the with some of the steel wool. But I think what I'm going to have to do is just do this right here on the lantern itself. So we're going to go ahead and polish this around. In fact, I think I'm just going to take this right back out again because it's pretty easy now that I got it loose. Oh, I made it tighter than I thought. Anyway, okay. Long process here, I know. So I'm going to tear off a little bit of this, and then what I'm going to do is see if we can't spin this around and polish the shaft. So polishing the shaft will help the seal of the packing on here, and that packing, once it's under pressure, will kind of form around it. So if we've got any kind of high spots from packing where it might have gotten stuck before, or varnish or anything else like that, this will smooth the shaft back out, and then everything should seal up really quite nice. And so yeah, so now we can see it looks pretty smooth. And I'm also doing it in the same direction as I would rotate the knob. If I'm doing it this way, I'm going to put longitudinal scratches in it, which will then start to gouge out the packing. So you want to go in the same direction that is actually going to be used in, and so that way you put the any sort of ridges that are aligned in the direction of rotation that doesn't wear out your packing, right? Okay, so I think this is almost as good as it's going to get, except from the hammer marks that I put in there, but that's okay. Will it slide off now? Gosh, it sure is awfully close. That would be great, because then I could probably do a little better job at polishing this. So let's see if we can't tap it out just a little bit. Let's see what happens if it wants to go. Yeah, well, it does, but it doesn't want to go any further. have to stick a rod down there or something else pointy, like screwdriver size, to drive that out fully, just like that. There we go. Now we can really polish that up a little better. You know, this would be something also that you could chuck up in a drill and just spin it to your heart's content. And actually, now that we've got this out, we can recheck it for flatness. And I don't have a calibrated flat here, but boy, it's really super close. It's so close that I think it'll be fine. So you go ahead and put this back in here, which will probably need some tapping to get it to go back in, which is okay. Just put this in here like this. This shouldn't actually require any force to get it to go in. It's just because it has a little bit of a bend in it. But so now this is all really pretty nicely polished out. So we should have a good seal. So we'll go ahead and get this back in there, get the cam engaged with the pricker and verify the pricker is going up and down, which it is. Crank this back down on here. And then packing goes on, and it actually feels really pretty good. So we're gonna do that. And then we're gonna give this a little bit of a tweak to make sure that the packing forms around pretty nice. Now, with packing, you know, you can put it on there tight enough to the point to where it is you're unable to turn anything else with it. So yeah, that feels pretty good. So I'm gonna make sure that I got this knob oriented right. So when you're doing these, I always like to think about what the little pointy part on the knob, maybe this way is better. The pointy part on the knob here is pointing at what the needle is actually doing. So if the pointy part is up, the needle is up. If the pointy part is down, the needle is down. So in this case, you turn it up to turn it off, and you point it down to turn it on. So I always think about this as when I turn it down, I'm pulling the needle out of the vaporizer hole so fuel can flow through. In reality, this rod pushes down on that foot valve, which then allows fuel to flow up. But you know, kind of whatever works in terms of remembering how this actually works. So so yeah, that actually went relatively pain-free. So that's pretty good. Tighten that back on there. Let's see how this feels. I think I can still put a little bit more on here because I want to feel I want to feel more drag on it. And we'll see how that feels. Still not quite enough. Now we're starting to feel it. Okay, and I'm just a little bit more. You'll notice I'm not doing much more than about a 1/16 of a turn at a time. That feels good. That feels good. Still a little bit of a wander in the valve, but I think now we're not going to have problems with having fuel seeping there, and I may give it just a little bit more, like that. And yeah, it feels pretty good. Got good resistance. So that hopefully will solve that problem. And if we still have that problem, we can always give it a little bit more of a crank, because I still got a lot of threads where I can keep pushing down on that and get that in there. So we're just gonna go ahead and put this back together. We're gonna do that, and then we're gonna fire it up here live on camera, like I didn't do the last time for you guys. Sorry. But you know, like I said, sometimes you just kind of gotta do what makes you happy. And if you're not happy doing whatever it is that you're doing, you need to reevaluate what it is you're doing and how you're doing it. So yeah, that is how that works, right? A little bit of soapbox psychology there for you. Well, I'm still sweating, but not as bad. I have this thing blowing on the back of me. I think I'm going to angle it a little bit more towards me because I don't have it pointing right at me. Like I said, I hope it's not getting into the mic. The other thing too about when you're tightening down the frame, you don't have to get all super He-Man about it. All you got to do is have it enough so it holds down. I mean, you can definitely bend these things out of shape very easily, but you just want to make sure that the frame stays relatively snug and doesn't move around too much. When I put this on, I'm going to turn this down so the needle is in the down position so I don't munge it up, and then carefully slide that over and all the way down, seated, spin this down. And actually, you know, I was thinking that I probably should have tightened the frame last, because then it makes this nut easier to tighten. But at any rate, got that on there. See if I need these things are so difficult. It just seems that they're always, everything is in exactly the wrong spot for you. But anyway, And that is a metal to metal seal there, so you do have to put a little bit of force on that to make sure that it's right. So now we'll turn this up, verify our needle comes through the top there, which we can feel. That's great. Put it back down. Now time for reinstalling the top here. Well, it feels a little bit, something feels a little loose. I think it may be, yeah, it's the YouTube. We're gonna adjust that in just a second. So we're gonna set this back in there, and then we're gonna adjust the height of that with the spacing tool. Get that in there without wrecking it. Yay, that's good. Nice. And then we got to set this. When you do set this, make sure that you have your valve pointing down, because otherwise you'll put this in there and you'll hit your needle, and that's not good. You don't want to do that. So I'm going to loosen this screw here, which, yeah, this is the thing about Petromaxes is a little bit annoying, is that they do have a tendency to move in this dimension because of the hot and cold cycle. So that seems to be, and it just dropped. Okay, you need to leave that in there while I put a little bit of force on this to hold it. So it's really important that you get this distance right, and of course it just slipped down a little bit. Because if this distance is too short, you'll end up with a yellow burning lantern, and it won't want to burn right. It won't want to start. It'll be sooty. It'll be not what you want. So let's try to get this up here a little bit, because it's not wanting to stay. And they sometimes require a bit of finagling to get them to go do what you want them to do. Okay, that's gotta be it. Is that it? That is it. So I'm gonna hold that up while I tighten this down. Of course, I can feel it come back down while I do that, so it's probably a little bit low. It is. Oh well, it's pretty dang close. So we'll know if it's wrong if it lights up all city. The other thing about these, when you put them on, there is a little butterfly adjustment to adjust lightness of the brightness of the lamp, and so you want to make sure you put this on in a way that allows you to access that adjustment, and so it should fit through the gap. If you put it on wrong, one of these ridges will be in the way. So this definitely does have a side that it has to go on. And then when you put these on, these you just have them just finger tight, barely. That's it. That's all you need to do. You don't need to do anything more than that. I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. I'm going to close my air release here. I'm going to put this in the up position, which will mean that the foot valve is closed, so I'm not going to flood the lantern with kerosene. And then I'm going to start pumping. And these pumps don't work that great, honestly. They're not like the Coleman, but you know, that's what we got. So here we go. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to try something a little bit different. I normally pump these up to the red line, which is like at 3 bar, and or just, is it 3? No, actually, this is just short of 2. So I think the big Petromaxes have the needle on them is at 3. Let's see, I've got one here. No, it's just shy of 2. So I'm just going to pump this up to 1, because I've heard some people say that these things, it's easier to start the preheater with a little bit less pressure in it. So we're going to give that a test. So we'll do this and see what happens. Of course, we got the fan here blowing things around. There she goes. And I have to keep pumping because this does consume a lot of air. So I have to keep pumping. While I do this. Ah. You know what? I fear we may be out of fuel. I've had this for, let me see. Oh yeah, there's virtually nothing in there. Well, that's awesome. So, we got to put some go juice in it. Sorry about that, folks. So, I've had this running for a while just to get it kind of everything all kind of baked in. And so, yeah, out of fuel. Not good. But we've got additional fuel here, which of course is good. So we're going to go ahead and put some of this in here, and I may actually cheat and use the bicycle pump down here. Oops, got some bizarre hairs in here, but we're going to go ahead and try to get this filled back up. Yeah, I've actually had this thing running for several hours, so that should be plenty to get it going. Throw that in here, screw this back on, and then in the name of making this video a little bit quicker, I'm gonna put my bicycle pump adapter in over the pump, so it'll be a lot faster. For a Petromax, I would really recommend buying one of these because they're pretty cheap and they work really well. You just screw them on there, get your bicycle pump, which is over here. Of course, my hose for this one is just a little bit short, so we got to move this here just to put some air in it. And this is ready to go. So that's kind of how easy the bicycle pump makes it. So let's try this again, hopefully with some more success. Oh yeah, it's quite a bit better. I hadn't really thought through how I'm going to continue to pump this because this is not, it's not, well, I guess I'll just put it up here. We're going to really get her going. Yeah, that torch is working great now. Of course, the second I say that, it goes out. That is outstanding. Okay. Still clearing out some scuzz in it, so that's fine. As I run it more like this, it will... Come on. Some spraying tons of kerosene into the air here. Well, I think also what we're experiencing is a little bit of really high pressure blowing out that torch. So we're just gonna let it sit here for a minute, let it go back down to 1. When it gets down to 1, then I'll go ahead and, well, we're just not having that kind of luck that I was looking for. But there we go. Obviously, there's still junk in the torch that's causing it to go out, and I'm going to get this up to full pressure, and that is full pressure right there. So that is it running finally. Oh my goodness. Such is the fun of Petromax stuff. They can be a little bit finicky, but you know, once you kind of get everything squared away here, it actually works pretty good. So that's it. This is 150 candle power, although you know you'd think that it's way more than that. Just really does have a tremendous amount of light that comes out of it. And then once I may end up trying to clean out that torch a bit better. Maybe it needs to come out and actually sit in denatured alcohol for a couple of days to get all of the rest of the crud that's in there that's coming loose and clogging up the jet. Blogging, I don't know. Anyway, so that's it. This video is hellaciously long, but I hope you enjoyed it and learned a bit more about Petromax and Aida and how they work and what they can do for you. So, until next time, keep them lit.